Okay, hi everybody, Ryan here for DPFdiscounter.com. We got a Cascadia in here today, DD15 one box emission system. First thing I do when anything comes in, we go ahead and check for any faults just to make sure there's no other underlying issues. This gentleman came in basically for a routine maintenance cleaning on his DPFs. One of the things I like to check, we're using jaw test here, is to check the ash content on the filter. So right here we're at 83%, which is getting pretty high. So I mean, kind of at that point, when you're approaching 80-90%, at that point I might recommend just replacing the filter versus cleaning it. So that's one little piece of data that we like to get, to kind of inform the customer for what's the best route to go. Instead of, when you clean that filter, you're already going to be in the labor of taking the filters out. That content, you're not going to get as much life out of it as you would for the same labor just throwing a new filter in. So we're gonna go around, I got the steps and stuff already off, and we'll get into taking the box off here. Okay, so we've already done a little bit of prep work over here, so it can be kind of different depending on what truck model you have or what year it is as far as how the steps and everything kind of comes off. So we'll just kind of let you figure that out. That's probably a prerequisite to doing this job, is if you can figure that out, you'll probably be safe going through the rest of this. So what we've done, we've taken the steps off, the step brackets, the back fairing. We took that off, get that out of the way because you got the ACM and everything back here. And you're gonna wanna go ahead and take this, this piece of plastic up here off. There's 10 millimeter nuts through here, and there's one in the bottom, and then I recommend taking off the first one on this back one so you can pull this out, because if not, there's not enough room to get that off, or you'll scratch everything up. So that's always good to have it take that first nut off of this back piece. So with that, what we're gonna go ahead and do, we're gonna take our inlet and outlet clamps off. Inlets up here, outlets down here. We're gonna leave our depth lines hooked up to our metering unit. We're just gonna unhook the harness from it, take it loose from the one box and just lay it off to the side. We're gonna leave it on the truck. And then we're gonna unplug our two main plugs up here. So this is a GHG 17 model, or a Gen 3 as we like to call them. So it's the third in the line of one boxes. The Gen 2s are the GHG 14s. They just have a single cannon plug up here. They're a lot easier to get unplugged, and they have the ACM over on the other side of the truck, so you don't have the ACM on it. But pretty much the rest of the box itself is pretty much the same. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and take this metering unit off. And these use a like an e-torque socket. Go ahead and unplug this first. So with this, you just kind of want to come in and work that down. Be careful that sometimes these will break in half. Once you get it down that far, you want to kind of pull on it, pull out and pull down on this yellow locking device at the same time. And we're just going to leave that on the box. Some of these have a zip tie here. We'll cut that. And this is an original metering unit. You can tell because it's painted black, so it's never been off here. Then when you're getting your parts, one thing you're going to want to purchase is a new gasket for the metering unit. Those aren't reusable. They're like a crush type gasket, so make sure you get one of those. And as always, we like to use a little container here for all of our bolts. Okay, a lot of depth buildup in there, so we have to clean that. So now we're going to have to pull these are plugs for the heated def lines. We're going to have to unplug these because they go into the one box harness here. So this just pops out. And these particular plugs, they have a little lock here. You press that back and then press it in. That, and then you can hear the click and unlock it. We got a zip tie here we got to cut. Some of these can be a little bit challenging if they get dirt and stuff in them. There we go. Now there's a little nut on this hold down here. Zip tie. Now what I usually do is just take this and kind of lay it over the frame. That's out of the way. Okay, so next thing I do is get the two main chassis harness plugs here. Or one's for the chassis harness and one goes over to the other side. These can be a little challenging. So there's two tabs that you press in on each side. You can kind of hear them snap. What I usually use is take a pair of channel locks, and you kind of got to get in here and then just kind of work it back and forth. You know, and you don't want to break these. So you don't ever want to force it. So if it's not kind of walking out, then you got an issue. Okay, there we go. And try to pull those out as straight as possible so you don't take a chance of bending the pins on that side. So you can see all the dirt that kind of came out. That kind of becomes like concrete in there and makes them difficult to come out. So just popped right out. There, those are out of the way. Next thing I do is take my inlet and outlet clamps out. These are typically a 13 millimeter. Not enough power. Power. That's typically the case with these. They usually, about half the time, the clamp usually breaks. ended up breaking, so no big deal. Bring that off. All right, now I'll get the lower one, or outlet. Both these clamps are gonna break, or the top one already broke, so I gotta pop this one loose so I can spin it so I can get this 1/2 inch impact on it. Okay, a little tight to get in there, so we're gonna resort to other methods here. Not enough room. All right, this one here is gonna be a pain, so we're just gonna cut it. So what we're gonna do is cut the T-bolt right here. Okay, so we got the tailpipe clamp off here after a battle. So with these GHG17 boxes, these have the PM or soot sensor here. Now they've conveniently put this bolt in this way, so you can't get it all the way out. So that's how I can tell this box has never been off, most likely, because any smart person would put the bolt back in this way. So then you can easily put it in and pull it back out. To remedy that, what we have to do is take this guillotine clamp loose right here, so that way our exhaust pipe will come back about 1 inch, because what we're going to have to do to get this box out is push that bolt as far over as we can, and then we'll have to bring the box out at an angle and pull the bolt out with the box is the only way to get it out, unfortunately. Other than that, I mean, you can get in there with like an oscillating tool and cut it if you wanted to. But we found this is the best method so far. So we're going to take this clamp loose. Sometimes these break as well. Okay, so we get that all apart. Just let that hang, so it bolts back here. Okay, so the last thing we have on this is to take out our, there's 8 bolts total that hold this onto the truck, there's 4 on each side. I usually go ahead and get them all loose, and then I'll bring my jack under here, and then we'll pull them out and pull the box out. So these are a 19 millimeter. one there, you see what I'm talking about, it hits that sensor, so you can't get it out. And we'll get those from the top. Go over and get our other side. Okay, so we'll go back out from underneath the truck. Like I said, we got the reason you have to pull this pipe out is because you have this flange here. So if you have that guillotine clamp, you won't be able to pull that out, and basically everything will be bound up to where you can't move this box with the bolt situation up there that we was talking about earlier. So we can get our 4 top bolts out here. So I'm going to leave that one, it's the nuts off of it, but I'm going to leave it in there for now. So now the box is essentially hanging on the top 2 bolts. So I will go ahead and bring our jack in here. Yeah, just jack that up enough to where I can get my bolts out here. Okay. So here's where the issue is with that back bolt. So you gotta kind of bring it out. All right, now we're free. So now I can get that out, because you can get it out once you're just coming through this mounting plate here. You can get it at a little bit of an angle and pull it past that PM sensor probe. So go ahead and drop this down. We'll have to replace these. Okay, so right off the bat, a couple things I like to look at on these is the condition of our inlet side here. You want a nice kind of dry soot. If it's wet or there's fuel or coolant or any type of contamination, you want to take that into account, because if you have anything going on here, there could be something wrong upstream, EGR core, EGR valve, something wrong with your internal engine, injectors, head gaskets, things of that nature. So, and those can all cause downstream problems. So if you're getting into this, make sure everything's good up there, because you could just be wasting your money down here if you have problems upstream. The other thing I like to look at is the outlet. See how this is nice and clean? There should be no soot or anything. It should be basically clean enough to eat off of, like this one is. I mean, it's perfectly clean. So that's what you're looking for on the outlet. So if you see any type of soot, if I seen soot in here right now, I automatically know I've got a cracked DPF, or I got soot or exhaust coming past the DPF media. So that's right off the bat. If I see that, I'm gonna call my customer right now, like, hey, let them know, like, hey, heads up, you're probably gonna need DPFs right at, no questions asked. So that's what we're looking for on that. Now we're gonna take the covers off and pull the DPFs out. So a couple things, these brackets and everything, they're all dated. So this is January 2nd, 2018. And it's something you don't see very often. Whoever put this together actually marked, right on here when they did it, 7/14/18, 11:15 p.m., third shift. So, okay, now anybody that's gotten into these boxes before, these bolts that they use to hold these covers on they're the little E-Torx bits, sockets. Usually we end up having to cut them off. It's a terrible design. I don't know why they just don't put a regular bolt in it. I know on our website, dpfdiscounter.com, we carry the replacement clips and regular 10mm standard nuts, 6-point nuts as a replacement for these. We have those, have the whole DPF kits and everything, clamps, gaskets, everything you need. We're gonna get this off and we'll see what we got. Okay, so best case scenario, these just break off. Strips off. So there's just like, no, it's a terrible design. Nothing, I don't know why you'd put that type of bolt in this. Yeah, every one of them. Every one of them's gonna strip off. We'll just commence to cutting them off. Okay, now a lot of people are going to say, oh, why are you removing the whole one box to do the DPFs? Well, for one, like I said, we inspect a lot more than just the DPFs when we pull the box. The other thing is that you've seen how much of a challenge it is to get these stupid, you know, E-bolts, E-socket Torx bit bolts out. So think if this is up against the frame right here, you have to get this back cover out too in order to put that back filter in. So we found out that it actually takes us longer to do an iffy job if the box is still in the truck, because it's almost impossible to get this back filter lined back up properly. We even have the alignment tool from Freightliner Detroit, and you can still only see half of that filter. I mean, I like to be able to see 360 degrees of that filter on that flange on both ends to make sure everything's set and right and properly, you know, set. And again, a lot of the issues that we have come in here are DPFs that are leaking that cause havoc. So I'd rather take a little bit of extra time and do the job right and feel 100% about it than struggling through trying to get these in and out with the one box in the truck. Again, you're not sure if you have this backside set because you can't get this cover out once it's inside of the truck. Now you have two options here. You can try to get this sensor out. Unless we're gonna bake the box, I usually just leave this in, and what we can do is cut these cable ties. We'll unplug it. You can bend this probe a little bit, not too much, just enough to get this cover out. This is an original temp sensor. It's painted black as well. Okay, so like I said, you can bend this up a little bit. Be careful to go too much or you can break it. Okay, now we have access to the DPF. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this back cover off as well. So we're gonna take both of these out. Now in order to get this back cover off, this bar here that holds this harness, you have to take it loose. You don't necessarily have to take it all the way off. And again, we'll probably have to grind all these off. Yeah. That's what we want. See that coming out. Okay, and in days like this where these covers are a nightmare is exactly why I don't like to mess with it in the truck. So. Get that up out of the way. Now we'll go ahead and pull the DPFs out. And sometimes you can salvage these V-band clamps, but most of the time not. These are one-time use, so whatever you gotta do to get them out. We'll go ahead and pop these loose. Now I try to get in here to pop this clamp loose. Get it right there. Bottom's popped loose. Okay, so you got to make sure this flat clamp here is all the way back as far as it'll go. It should give you enough clearance to go ahead and bring the filter out. So, this one outlet side looks pretty clean, so that's what we're looking for. We just want to make sure there's no residue or streaks in this, or if there's any signs of soot, then I would just replace the filter. And this looks like an original filter. It's not a Detroit reman filter, which is most of the times just a clean filter that comes with a core charge. That's one thing about, like on our website, DPFdiscounter.com, nothing has a core charge, so you don't have to worry about getting rejected like you do at the dealers and things like that, and have to pay, you know, $600 or $800 core charge. Everything we have is no core, out the door. And most of our one box DPFs actually come with both clamps as well. So most of the ones you get the dealer, they're only going to give you the crush gasket on this side and the combination flat clamp, band clamp and gasket on that end. Like I said, with most of the time, the V-band clamps on this end, probably 80% of the time we end up replacing them because they won't come out. being stuck there. Again, and upon initial inspection, this one looks pretty clean too. Yeah, there's a date on here as well. This is 6/6/18. So these are most likely the original filters, and they've never been out, if I had to make an educated guess. Okay, so that's pretty much how you remove your one box and pull the DPFs out of it. One of the other things we're going to want to look at when you pull this out is check the faces of your DOCs. You can use a small piece of wire and probe these as well. You shouldn't have any blockages. It should go all the way to hear that little ting where it hits the metal on the other side. You do have some major blockages. You could have a face plug DOC, and typically we see that being caused by something upstream. So those are things to look at as well, or any type of weird staining or anything like that, just something to take into consideration. So that's pretty much it, guys. We're going to get these tested and get them into the oven here tonight, so we can hopefully have this guy back up and running tomorrow. That's pretty much all I got for today. So if you're looking for any of these great products or anything, check out our website, www.dpfdiscounter.com. Thanks for watching. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, hit the bell for the updates, and like the video.